Welcome to the Calm Cockpit, where we explore how brain performance, mindfulness, and stress regulation can help pilots fly safer, learn faster, and stay mentally sharp throughout their careers. In today's episode, we're talking about recurrent training without pursuing a certificate, and things like flight reviews and instrument proficiency checks, otherwise known as IPCs. So often we talk about the stress of things like check rides and training events. Today, we're going to focus on the value of making yourself better, how to prepare, and the mindsets that create the most successful outcomes.
We want you to remember that no matter the type of training you take, it wouldn't be learning if you didn't make mistakes. Your job is to develop your skills and put in the effort. Your instructor's job is to help you succeed. What if success in training wasn't just about memory and stick and rudder skills, but about how you manage your brain, your stress response, recognition of your own skills, and your recovery afterward?
The Calm Cockpit podcast starts now.
Onyx 1-2 Mike Oscar, runway 27, clear for takeoff.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to today's episode. I'm John Niehaus, corporate pilot and flight instructor.
And I'm Geeta Brown, licensed yoga and meditation and music educator with over 30 years of teaching high performers how to improve their lives and performance, but without adding stress. And I'm a midlife student pilot. So, John, you did some recurrent training in January, and we got to talking about what that's like. You've done a bunch of them now, so you kind of have things down to a routine. And for our listeners who don't really know what a recurrent training for a professional pilot means, can you give us a little rundown of what it is, why you do it, what happens during that week of training?
Sure, of course. Yeah, I had my training at the end of January, and generally for us anyways, it's about a week of training every 9 months. Now, this can vary depending on the company and depending on what regulations you're governed under. Sometimes it's every 6 months, sometimes it's once a year. We sort of split the difference for us and we go every 9 months, but it is in regards to kind of understanding your airplane, brushing the rust off of things you don't normally do, making sure that you're safe if it does happen in real life, and of course, making sure that you remember some of those little facts about the airplane that come in handy again when things start to go awry. So for us, we go to a company called Flight Safety, and that company specializes in teaching you how to fly these kinds of airplanes and then helping you remember how to fly these kinds of airplanes. And so it ends up being about 2 days of ground school and 3 days in a flight simulator to just, again, brush up on those skills.
Are you all day long? Is it like 8-hour days, or is it longer than that?
So the ground school is all day. The ground school is like 8 to 5. And then the simulator days are about 6-hour blocks, somewhere in there. Usually it's a brief and then a 4-hour sim. So 2 hours with you as the pilot flying and 2 hours with you as the pilot monitoring or pilot in the right seat. And then you have a debrief after that and you go home. So no matter which way you push it, it can be long days. And I think the biggest struggle for a lot of people is the simulator times can be just brutal. Depending on what slot you got or how early you reserved it. I mean, you could go 24 hours you could start at any time. It could be an 8 o'clock sim in the morning. It could be a 8 o'clock sim at night. And at night, that would put you at 2 in the morning when you're done. So, wow. And then God forbid you get the real late night sim where it's, 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning to something else. So they can just be a little bit stressful when it comes to when your sim time is, but I have the luxury at my company of being the one that schedules those things. So
nice.
we're 2 years in advance because I don't like getting up early in the morning.
So what time do you choose? You choose like late morning then? You're like an 11 a.m. guy?
Yeah, my last recurrent, my sims were at 11 a.m. in the morning. A lot of times we'll go for 8, which is still kind of an early morning for me, but
Yeah. Well, being
it's
ready to go wheels up like at 8 with a briefing means, you got to back end that with like getting up and getting prepped and getting there and all that.
exactly.
Which
So,
is,
but it's nice to have it done, and then you have the rest of the day to kind of do whatever you want to do. And that's kind
yeah.
of what we're going to talk about today is just the
Yes.
understanding of no matter what kind of training you are. Again, it doesn't have to be recurrent training for a jet. It could be your next flight review. It could be maybe you let your instrument currency expire and you have to go for a instrument proficiency check. There's a lot of things that kind of run through people's minds of like, oh my God, I got to do this thing. I don't want to talk about any of the negative stuff. Let's talk about why this is fun, why it's important, and what gets you through it at the end of the day.
Love it. And you know what it reminds me of too? I have not done this yet because I'm still, crawling towards my check ride here. No, I am marching confidently towards my check
There
ride
you go.
for private pilot. But I've been talking to some midlife student pilots, and a lot of them elect to do that accelerated instrument training where it's a week or 2 weeks and like they leave home, similar to what you're talking about, John. They leave home, they're in a different place, and that's all they do is they fly. And some of it might be in real IMC, and they're like, it's intense, it's a lot, but they like that it's compressed and they can just solely focus on this one thing. Reminds me of a lot of that. And I think your idea to talk about why this is so awesome is perfect because it can start to get into our own heads about how much information there is and everything we're doing. And it can start to get real heavy real quick. So I love this idea about like, let's reframe this whole thing and like, it's learning. It's awesome. Like, this is why we're doing it. Should be because we love it.
Yeah, I mean, it does come with a little bit of a heavy atmosphere because especially if you are an airline pilot or if you're in charter, it culminates in a recurrent quote unquote check ride.
Yeah.
And they're actually starting to move towards that. I thought I was in, vacation town because Part 91, which is what we are governed under, doesn't have check rides. So you really go in just to learn and relax and enjoy.
Yeah.
That's starting to change a little bit with the FAA. So there's a lot of this like, oh my gosh, if I go in and botch this check ride, that things are going to, go awry. And we've talked about that before. So I don't want to focus too much on that. Let's realize that, yes, those things happen and they can be stressful, but here's how we meld ourselves into the training.
I think it's always about taking that bigger picture too for things. If you're so focused on like the one fact of like, oh, my job or my hobby or anything is hanging on this, it can get really heavy real quick. But when you zoom way out and you're like, hey, I'm a cool human being who gets to do this really cool thing, then it can become play and curiosity. No matter the outcome will take care of itself if you come in with a good mindset. And I think we'll be less likely to get tripped up by what we perceive might be one possible outcome of it. It is a little bit of a mind game though. Staying positive takes work. Oddly enough, it's like work to stay light, because everything in our culture will tell you bear down and be afraid and fight and push. And that's why we're here to talk about this kind of stuff, to say, lighten up a little bit. So learn us something, John. How do you do it? How do you stay playful and happy?
Well, I mean, I want to start with just the obvious heavy stuff that we need to talk about. I mean, we already brought up the nature of it being somewhat high stakes at the end and the fact that we don't do these things every day, right? How many times are you, if you're going to go for an IPC, how many times are you actually going to shoot an approach to minimums and then go missed? A lot of pilots choose, well, I can fly instrument, but if it's going to be that bad, maybe I shouldn't go. In my case, how often do I get an engine failure? Crossing my fingers. Thankfully, not ever.
Yes, I'm knocking on wood.
I have shut an engine down, but luckily for me, it was actually in flight, not on takeoff. So you got to go into it with the idea of like, yeah, I haven't done these things in a while. And guess what? The instructor knows. They know that you haven't had an electrical fire. They know that you haven't done a emergency descent from 40,000 feet.
Yeah.
Is it possible that you could have? Sure. But the odds of it happening to you and then you coming to recurrent, maybe 1 in 1,000 or even higher than that. I don't know.
Yeah.
So there's kind of that high stakes, low frequency when it comes to what are we doing? Why are we doing it? How often do we actually do it in practice? Are you going to be perfect or is it going to be a little bit rusty and you might want to try it more than once? That's okay. And I think that's the part we need to focus on is it's okay. We wouldn't need the training, as we've said in previous episodes, if you were already that good. If you never forgot anything, if muscle memory was a one-time practice and you had it for life, you wouldn't need any of this stuff.
That's what it's for. It's to find the little gaps in the knowledge so that you can go, oh, yeah, I need to do the X, Y, and Z at those points and have that primed in your memory so that if it did happen, it's going to happen there. You're going to respond appropriately. It reminds me something of like training musicians. Sometimes they're so afraid of making a mistake that then they make a mistake.
We
It's
will
like,
talk about that.
yes. And there's something really interesting that happens when I see a student kind of starting to choke up a little bit around that, like, and I'll just be like, hey, actually, you are encouraged to make mistakes. In fact, one of my 5th graders used to write on the whiteboard when she walked in the room, mistakes encouraged, because every time we found a mistake, it was an opportunity then to create success in the future. And when they shifted their mind towards that, like, oh, I want to find the cracks in, the run through of the piece. That way I know what to work on, gave them confidence and like relaxation in it. And I think it's going to be the same for us. I mean, you're right. When am I going to actually have, an engine fire? I don't know. Maybe I will. But the first time my instructor pretended I had one, did I perform brilliantly? No, but I learned so much then about what to do. And I feel very confident that as I go forward, that's going to actually help me execute when it matters, when it really matters, which is when our butt is on the line.
Exactly.
So I love that idea of like, just let yourself make the mistakes. As you said, give yourself grace that this is part of why you're there. It's not to show perfection. It's to find where you need refinement and accept that and embrace it.
Well, and there's a few reasons why we do this outside of the FAA tells us we have to, right? With any training, one of the biggest things that your instructors are looking for, and myself as an instructor, this is what I looked for in my students, single largest thing is decision making. I don't care if you do the maneuver correctly on the first try. What I want to see is, where does your brain go?
Yeah.
If Geeta, you and I are flying together and I'm your instructor and I go ahead and I pull your power back and I'm like, Geeta, you just had an engine failure.
Mm-hmm.
And you go,
tick, tick, tick goes the clock.
There's something about the alphabet I'm supposed to do. And I got my map. Like, what? That is what I need to see.
Yeah.
Right. Because if that happens to you in real life by yourself, your outcome's not going to be great.
Right.
Now, if you go, all right, cool, I'm going to establish my ABCs, my airspeed, my best field, my checklist. Boom. Did you run the checklist perfectly because you're stressed out? Maybe not. Did you make it to the ground? Awesome. Did you maybe even I don't even care if you ripped a wheel off on the ground. Mm-hmm. A survivable landing is a successful outcome. So we want to teach you to a level where you land with all of your wheels, but we'll get there. And so that's exactly what they're looking for in any of these other recurrent things, is they want to see your decision making. You're flying a very complicated airplane, in my case. Where is your brain going? If I give you this failure, are you going to run the correct checklist? That's the first part. Are you going to continue to fly the airplane? Are you going to delegate as necessary? So it's less about what your muscle memory says, at least at first, and more about, where does your brain go? How does it work? And if it's not working correctly, how do we fix it? And so I think that that's really important. And that kind of leads into sort of this idea of procedural recall of, I don't know what checklist to run. I don't know what the airplane's trying to tell me because I haven't looked at this in so long. There are some of these airplanes that have checklists that you look at and you go, it's all written out in front of me, but I don't know what it's trying to tell me to do. Mm-hmm. And those instructors know exactly which ones are the ones that are confusing, and those are the ones that you get, because
of course
those are the ones you need to know.
And aren't they looking out for your best interest too? I mean, they want to pick at the really hard one that's confusing, because they want to help you in case that there's a future event that happens. Mm-hmm. They want you and the passengers to be safe. Like, it's for your good. They're not trying to punish you or have some idealistic, perfectionistic thing about who you are as a person if you do this right. They care about you and they want you to be safe. So they're going to throw that hard one at you. And it's interesting too, because I imagine every incident or every emergency rather that happens is going to be different too. Like, the parameters of everything are be different. It's not just going to be like the perfect thing that you've trained for. So I imagine they're throwing everything at you in the sim, different combinations of different failures. And I think your point about it's more about training sort of the mindset and how you problem solve is more vital than just your perfectionistic outcome of your button pushing. That makes a lot of sense.
And that is easy for me to say, right? Like, it's easy
Sitting
for
here
me to
talking
say,
about it with a cup of coffee. It's like, oh, just be happy about this. It's so fun.
Right.
Yeah.
I am very well aware of, the pressure that comes into going into these things. And I have spent a long time pulling myself back from that. And I still probably aren't quite as zen as I could be, as some of
Yeah.
the co-pilots that I have flown with. They go into it and just like, okay, it's just another day. But that's what this is all about. That's what we're talking about. It's not
Yeah.
about how much can I cram, how perfect can I be, how many answers do I know above the 12 other guys in my class.
Mhm.
It's, do I know the right things and can I recall them when I'm supposed to?
Perfect. Love it. Love it.
So anytime you go to an event like this, whether again it's a flight review, a instrument proficiency check, a recurrent, or some other type of training that is just to get you to the next level or get you through a dusty phase, how do I prepare? How much do I need to actually study in advance? And of course, that is very self-dependent. I mean, I know people who show up to training and the night before they start studying and that works for them. Not that I would necessarily suggest that. Or in my case, I am still a little bit of that, as you call it, recovering perfectionist, and I may or may not start looking at some of that stuff a month or two in advance. It just depends on how well do you know yourself? How well do you know your ability to recall abstract things? I struggle with remembering numbers. I can tell you how something works, but when you say, okay, well, when does the oil pressure turn red? A, why do I necessarily care about it? Because it turns red. So, okay.
The red is the indication that I need.
Right. But B, like some random number, that's not how my
Yeah.
brain is wired. I cannot give you individual numbers. Most of the time, I can't even remember how old I am. So I did solicit to my friends in the pilot community to say, hey, how do you guys and gals prepare for this kinds of thing? And I got about what I expected. Most people are just like, oh, I study. I had a friend that was like, prepared. What's that? I just kind of show up.
Is he just one of those people that shows up? We have them in music too. They show up and they put their clarinet together and then they play this flawless thing. And you're like, really?
I hate
Really? Yeah, I would have to slow practice every day for like a month to get to that point. Everyone's different. Love it.
Yeah. I had a DPE friend of mine, and he also flies for a corporate company. And I did like his advice, which is kind of how I shifted this entire episode. He said, first of all, stop treating it like a stress-filled check ride and more like a training event. Remember that it's recurrent, right? You're doing stuff in the sim that you don't do every day. Expect a little rust, and you're there to knock it off. He's right. He's absolutely right. He goes on to say he does study a little bit, but he doesn't overwhelm himself because when you get there, if you're already burnt out from this stuff, you're basically putting yourself a step behind because you're tired of looking at it, and then you've got a week of looking at it.
Yeah. And mentally too, you've put all this like pressure on yourself unnecessarily. So it's all caught up in this stress monkey mind. Yeah.
Exactly. So there were other pilots that said, one of my friends said that he creates his own quizzes and his own worksheets. I actually can stand by that. One of our pilots created basically a cheat sheet of all of the numbers that you're supposed to know. And I took it one step further and took his cheat sheet and blanked it out. And now I just have a worksheet that I fill in. Now, granted, that is rote memorization, which is why some of it goes right through the ears at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But it gets you where you need to go. Flashcards are, again, a very common and tried and true way of remembering things. So a lot of the pilots use that. One of them even said that he records himself saying the important things, whether it be recall items or memory checklists, and then plays them in the car as he's driving. So,
oh my God, I'm not the only one who does things like this. I feel so seen right now. I feel so seen. I love pilots. I love it. You know what I'm hearing in all these things that you got from the pilots, and thanks for everyone who sent in this information, that everyone has their own pace. I keep coming to this word like pace in my mind, that some people like to do little dribs and drabs of stuff over the day. Some people like to put a lot of pace like you with a numbers thing, and the rest of it they can leave behind. So it's like pace, and then also it sounds like where you know your gaps are in your memory or just whatever you need to know, that's what you spend a little bit of time on, but the rest, just leave it alone. You don't have to do at all. And I
Mhm.
think for me, when I've noticed when I go to flight lessons and I'm not feeling as confident and I really am honest with myself, it's like I didn't study the few things that I know I needed to study. And that's why I'm not feeling confident. It's not a reflection of my overall skill. It's that I didn't take a little bit of time to just kind of slow down and just maybe do those 5 little things I wanted to read about and do it. And so now I'm feeling insecure because I know I didn't prepare what I needed. Not that I can't at this point fly the plane solo, because I can.
Mm.
So it's so interesting just to be very clear about what you want and then clear about the pace that helps you, so that the pace when you go into the training is like a flow. Love it.
So
Love it.
here's what brings the temperature down a little bit.
Hmm.
I would go into a lot of these events. And again, let's say you're a private pilot and you're going to an airport that you have never rented an airplane for
Mm-hmm.
or from. Guess what you're going to have to do? You're going to have to do a checkout in whatever
Checkout.
airplane they have.
Yeah.
That's recurrent training. Is it
Mm-hmm.
necessarily training per se? I'd say so, because yes, you are showing that you are capable of flying an airplane, but maybe you've not flown that airplane before or that
Mm-hmm.
type of airplane. So the instructor is in the airplane to show you, you jiggle this a little bit, you fly
Yeah.
this speed, you do this thing, you'll be fine. In any of these kinds of things, recurrent as well, I know I used to go into it feeling like Bob Mader from our episode, 3 of last season, a little bit of that imposter syndrome of like, what if everybody finds out I don't belong here?
Mm-hmm.
What if I mess up and they go, man, how did you pass that first check right if you don't know this thing or that thing?
Mm-hmm.
And what that would do is it would create kind of this spiral of I'm more focused on trying to make sure nobody finds out I suck than
Yeah.
actually showing that I do know some things. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe I might even know some things that other people don't know. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
So this need to prove that you belong, the need to prove that you have skills, it can get in the way. All of this stuff it's easy to say. It's hard to put into practice. It takes work, like you said, to get that zen. You have to look at it as you've passed your check ride. You've probably flown the airplane, or at least an airplane of which you are certificated for. You've got flight hours. You've probably taken some line checks or some insurance checkouts before. Most likely it's not your first rodeo. You belong. You've already earned that ticket. So let yourself bring that guard down a little bit and realize that instead of trying to protect your ego, you can allow the learning to take place.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings so much of the temperature down.
Yeah, that's so true. I like to talk to my ego sometimes and just be like, hey, nice to see you again. I know because what it's trying to do is trying to protect me, right, from being hurt, or like in your case, like losing a job. I'm like, I see you're trying to protect me. Thank you. But this attitude is actually going to get me in more trouble. Can you see that? Like literally like talk to my brain and say, let's play this attitude out and see where it leads a week or two from now. And then my mind usually goes, oh, right, this is not a winning strategy. I'm like, so I need you. I need that self-confidence and that self-protection. I need that. I don't want that ego to totally go away. I just need that to play second fiddle to the part of me that's more curious and interested about life. And for me, that little bit of self-talk helps, the brain talking to the brain. I don't know what level of kooky that makes me, but just slowing down and thinking about it helps. And I think it was Bob who said, it doesn't matter if you have student pilot on your license there, it says pilot. So stop qualifying it. You're a pilot. And they would also say things to students like me in private training. Your teacher wouldn't let you go solo. Your teacher wouldn't sign you up for the check ride. Your teacher wouldn't do this and that, your instructor, if they didn't know that you were ready to do it. So if they're saying, yes, go take the check ride, you are ready to take the check ride. And I always heard that. It was just words. But I actually made myself sit down and feel it and really go like, oh yeah, my instructor is definitely high standards. Like, woo, high standard. He would not be like, hey, you want to take the plane solo tomorrow? I'm not available. If he wasn't totally confident that I could grab the keys and go fly without him even being at the airport. So like really let yourself slow down and feel that, not just say it, but like internalize it. It's helped me a lot. So it's interesting to hear that even you grown up fancy jet pilots, it's just shows you what a mind trap it is though. And how we can set ourselves free of that.
It is. And as I was doing some research online, was talking about the higher the threat level, and Geeta, I know you talked about cortisol being a good thing, but it talks about raising cortisol levels, and think of trying to fly a check ride with the death grip on the yoke, right?
Yeah.
Like the harder you grip, the more you try to control, the more aggressive, the more mistakes you make, the just very robotic feel to flying the airplane. Whereas if you can just say, you know what, all I'm doing is maintaining the standards that I've already proven that I can uphold. It's not about earning myself here. It's about just showing that I can still do it. And if I can't, brush that rust off. Guess what? You're right back to where you belong.
Absolutely.
It goes back to everything that you've ever been told from the very first day. Aviate, navigate, communicate. Use what's around you. Use your co-pilot if you have one. I like to call it spread the blame. Right? Some people call it CRM. I call it spread the blame. The very first thing that I do when I walk into the sim, and usually we're paired up with somebody that we've probably never met before from a different company. They may have things that do things a little bit differently. And there's always that weird, like, we've never met. Now I'm going to sit next to you for the next, 4 hours and we're going to try to do this. I try to go with a little bit of humor and just go, hey, bud, don't assume I know what I'm talking about. Don't assume I know what I'm doing. If I make a mistake, I don't want you to sit there and go, I'm sure he's got a plan for this. Probably don't. Probably don't. So let's get through this thing together, and you're not going to hurt my feelings. I want you to save my mistakes. We'll both learn from it, and I'm going to try to make the mistakes so you don't have to.
Love it.
And it lightens the mood. It allows us to kind of move on and have that rapport together, and then you kind of just go fight a war together for a couple hours, and you come out with a new best friend. So
it's some good stories, probably.
Exactly. It just kind of helps clear the air, clear your head, and let you just settle into what you're doing as if you've known this person the entire time.
That's a great ritual, and I think, single pilots, I'm thinking GA folks can do the same thing. Like you said, you're doing that checkout, or even with the DP on a check ride. I was thinking, I've got that coming up. I'm like, how do I want to approach that initial, like, I get in the airplane with this person? Because that's my first time where I'm flying with a passenger, right? Like, technically I'm PIC all the way then. So I was like, how do I want to set the tone? And I was thinking, I want to have fun and be safe. That's it. And John, I was telling you before we hit record on this that the other day I showed up and I was flying with a different instructor. And he said, hey, we're going to run through some of the FAA ballet for your check ride. We're going to string together all these maneuvers. And right away, my brain went, fight or flight. I've never done that before. I haven't done all these procedures all one after the other. And my mind started racing and I was like, whoa, slow down. This is just like every other flight you've done. You want to enjoy it and you want to be safe. That's it. Take it one, not even maneuver at a time, one moment at a time. First, walk out to the plane and take a look at it and assess it, and then go just take things one step at a time. And because I think I caught myself, that ended up being a really fun lesson. And I learned so much. I learned where all of my little problems are in stringing it together. But it was a really fun experience where I think it could have very easily spiraled into me being like freaking out that I was going to do this and I didn't feel prepared or forewarned that this is what we were going to do for the lesson plan. I was like, oh, fly the airplane, enjoy yourself, be safe. Very simple. Yeah. And just did that. And guess what? We did. And I learned so much. And I left the lesson then with like momentum for the next one and looking forward to it. So I love this idea of kind of having a plan for how you're going to approach those awkward, cringy moments, like right when you're starting with the flying. And humor is great. It gets us laughing, gets the blood pressure to go down, gets us breathing, breaks up that breath lock that then makes us feel anxious. So it does a lot physiologically for the body too. John, you're so wise in some ways at some times.
I think the important part to all of this is so often, even on this podcast, we talk about stress as if it's a bad thing. And in some cases it is. Certain levels become dangerous, right?
Chronically elevated stress. Stress is good though. We like stress.
I was just going to say, I think that what Recurrent does, or any of these types of training events, what they do is they teach you how to use stress as your superpower. A little bit of stress is actually a good thing because when you're primed for something, when you're thinking about what could go wrong in advance, when your brain is just cycling through all that information and you're a little bit tense,
Yep.
as long as you don't let it control you, it actually evens you out to a point where you settle into whatever is happening, even if it's not something that you particularly want to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And next thing you know, you almost wake up at the end of it. Like for me, I'll get done with a sim session and I'll sort of come out of the simulator after 2 hours and go, I don't know where that time went, but
Yep.
I feel like it went pretty well.
Yep.
And it's that moment of the stress and the training that you're already pre-programmed for. It takes over. Your brain does what you would hope it would do. And next thing you come out of it and you go, okay, cool. That's where we went. That's what we did.
Yep.
Good or bad, away we go.
Yeah, that's the flow state, man. That's it.
I like to call it, I like to be a little bit of a punching bag. And that sounds, it sounds negative. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start out with somewhat of a darker story here. I've been in only one, knock on wood, car accident
Mm-hmm.
since I got my driver's license.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it was, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. And there was a weird moment because it was totally my fault. There was a weird moment where I saw the other car coming and like I almost kind of went limp.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the realization this is happening. Well, I can't do anything about it. And I almost went limp. And I think that was like the best thing that could have possibly happened because I could have been seriously injured. And because I didn't resist, I came out and went, well, that was awful.
Mm-hmm.
But look, I'm good. It's also credit to the engineering of the car. But,
Right.
you know, I came out and just felt okay because I didn't tense up. I didn't, you know, stress. I didn't grab a handle or hold on to the steering wheel or any of that kind of stuff. I just let it flow off of me. And that's kind of how I go into some of these training events. We do these briefings in advance and they say, okay, you're going to do this approach for an instrument approach. You're going to do this and we're going to fail this or we're going to do that. And I'm really only half paying attention. I'll admit it. I don't care what you want me to do. Because if I start thinking about all of the things, if I start worrying about, I've got 6 approaches to do today, 3 of them are going to be single engine, one of them is going to be on fire, and one of them I'm going to have an oxygen mask on.
Right.
Like, I don't need to know that right now. I don't even need to worry about that right now. I know that I know how to shoot an approach. And so when you tell me to do it, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to take those punches. I'm going to move with the water. I'm going to just flow around and it just kind of comes together. The more you try to be rigid, the more you try to plan, the more you try to think about that approach ahead of the 4 other approaches you have to do, you're no longer thinking about what you have next. You're thinking about what you've got in 3 places. And that's the same with a private pilot, an instrument, a commercial check ride in primary training. You know what's on the check ride. You have your PTS or your ACS, depending on what you're doing. Maybe they're all ACSs now. You know what's coming up. But if you're worried about that short field landing that you're not super proficient at, you're going to mess up the steep turns that you know for a fact you can do without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, totally.
So be that punching bag. Let that examiner jab you right in the face and like, oh, yes, I can do this. I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah. I love it. They tell you that same thing. Actually, they tell you that when you get in a car accident, the best thing you can do is to just relax and go limp. And same thing if you're swimming and you get caught by a big wave and they say, let the wave take you down to the bottom. Just surrender, relax, don't burn any extra oxygen. Let the wave take you down to the ocean floor. At some point, it will release because that's what waves do. And then that's when you swim to the surface. There is great wisdom in that of just what I hear you saying, John, is like stay in the moment. Use your thinking power for what you need to focus on and don't be wasting it in a bunch of other places. And so I think that's my little example from that flight lesson the other day. I caught myself starting to do that, thinking, I'm going to have to do this, I'm going to have to do that, I'm going to have to do this, and what's the procedure for that? I just went, zip, let me just walk out to the airplane and just take care of that. And I was able to handle it. I think that's really great advice. Be the punching bag.
Well, and I think there's even almost like I don't want to make it sound like this, but I can't describe it in any other way. It's almost like an out of body type experience, right? Like you're sitting there and you're doing the thing, like you said, it's sort of that flow state moment where you're performing the task, but you're almost kind of behind yourself, watching yourself do it. And that's that lack of trying to control the moment, but allowing your body to do what it knows what to do already. You know, your brain. knows what to do already, assuming you've been trained for it. It's a little bit different when it's new. If you're going for
Right.
a brand new aircraft type rating or check ride, like that
Yeah.
might be a little bit different. But if it's a recurrent and you've done it before and you've proven yourself already,
Yep.
you can kind of sit back and just let it flow around you and watch
Yeah.
yourself do it and interfere when you see yourself kind of subconsciously go in the wrong direction. But
Yeah.
otherwise, just see what your brain's capable of.
I love it. That is what they call being in the zone. One of my music teachers told me after grad school, I was studying with her, preparing for like the professional auditions. She was like, just go in there and show what you know. Just show it. That's all. And she would just stand there and she would just stand so still and so quietly while I was playing and listen so intently that like she showed me through like her listening to just be in the zone by just being present. This is why I love meditation and yoga, because I have to say this in every episode, because this is what I train every day on the yoga mat, is that ability to, they call it the witnessing mind, to be doing something and actively engaged in the world, talking to John Ehouse on a podcast, but there's still that part of me that's watching it all happen and going, well, isn't this an interesting thing I'm playing with? Musicians, we experience the same thing, you know, all this pressure. And then before you go on stage, you're like super nervous, but you use that adrenaline, like excitement. It's not bad. These are good nerves. This is a good thing. And then you can channel that into your performance and like redirect those nervous feelings instead of trying to push them away. I think literally of redirecting them like a stream into what I'm doing. I'm going to take that energy and put it out into whatever activity I'm using. So I'm not trying to suppress the nerves. I'm just guiding them into what I'm doing. It gives me that extra edge. And yeah, you do get spit out at the other end of a performance. You're like, whoa, that happened. It's like you enter in this totally different headspace. Love it.
One of the quotes that I saw that I really like as I was putting this episode together is aviation, especially the simulator, rewards adaptability, not rigidity.
Ah, yeah.
And I think that is very profound. You know, the
Yes.
more you try to control, the worse it gets. The more
Mhm.
you go, oh my God, I messed that up. Guess what? You're going to mess up the next thing too.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so they call it the performance paradox. So the more you try to control it, the less control you actually have and the worse things
Yes.
get.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I think one of the other things that I also run into, and it's funny, I tend to have a little bit of a plateau. So it depends on how many days the training is, whether it's 3 days in the sim. Sometimes in some companies you get 4 where it's 3 days in the sim and then the fourth day is an actual like check ride or something like that. I have this plateau where like the first couple days, like, ooh, that was really good. I feel great. Second day, that was really good. I feel great. And then I don't usually sleep very well after the second day. And the third day, crash. Not literally, but
Yeah.
I wake up the next day and it's just like I am completely discombobulated. I'm running things slow. I'm not doing things the way I'm supposed to. And I get to this point where it's like, wow, I don't think that was great. And then
Yeah.
it just snowballs.
Interesting.
You have to figure out how to pull yourself out of that and go, well, today was maybe not your best day. Did your instructor say you suck? Probably not. Most likely not. Don't let your performance from today affect your performance from tomorrow. I used to go into it, and when I did have a test on the last day, I would sit there on that third day and go, man, I have a check ride tomorrow and today was bad. Like, what do I do? And I've had sim partners go, but your first 2 days were great. Like,
Yeah.
you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
And then I show up for the check ride, all nervous the next day. I get out and usually the other person is like, and that was actually your best day.
Yep. That's
Like
how it
your
rolls.
check ride was better than all of your other training days. Why were you so worried the day before?
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about trying to figure out how to push yourself past making a mistake because that's what it's for.
Absolutely. Music, we have this thing, we call it a bad dress rehearsal means a great concert. The last thing you want to do is peak at the dress rehearsal. In fact, if I have students who are peaking at a dress rehearsal, I'll say, stop, we're not rehearsing anymore. Save it for the performance. They're like, really? But it was going so well. I'm like, save it. You just proved you can play it. You don't want to have your peak before the performance. So it's actually usually a good sign. It means you're working out all the rust. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So enough about flying the sim, enough about all of this
Mhm.
other stuff. Let's talk about other reasons why going to something like this or finding yourself at another airport to fly a different airplane with a different instructor, with a different company. Like, why is this fun? Why is it cool? What is the additional value? And it's kind of that hidden piece. And it's obviously a opportunity to network. It's a way of meeting new people with new experiences who can teach you new things. And when you're a professional pilot and you're going to a recurrent like this, I have to look at it as I'm in a room with, I don't know, anywhere from 4 to 10 other pilots, generally from other companies. And we have this unique connection of the airplane that we fly, even though we're from different parts of the country, maybe different parts of the world, flying for different companies with different missions. And I have to remember, no matter how uncomfortable it is, because networking is not an easy thing for me. And I think that's an episode that we can do later on down the road.
Note to self.
Yeah, it's a great time to do what I just said and have all of those connections, but also remember that, like, you never know when meeting that person from that other company could come in handy, whether it's you have a question about what they do that you don't do, or God forbid you lost a job and you need to have a connection from somewhere else to see if there's a place you can go. So remember that just that underlying experience with somebody else at another airport or in a training event or whatever it looks like is at worst a place to make a new friend. At best, could be your next boss, your next coworker, your next whatever.
Yeah, and you might be able to help them out too in the future. It kind of goes around both ways. That person you really liked, you totally clicked with your sim partner, and then years later you get a phone call from them, and then you have an opportunity to bring them on board to your company. You're like, wow, now I have this person that I really like. I have a friend working here. So I think that's great. The pilot community is small, but I think it's always good to kind of break out of our little shells, because I've noticed we can kind of tend to get into like, I fly tail draggers and I fly this, and you stay in your little world. So I imagine it must be nice to get together with fellow folks and just kind of shake off the dust and rust, but socially as well. It must be nice though to go through Recurrent, because you're like all in the same boat together too, right? It's like we're all in the stress bucket together, but we're all here having fun, and you must bond just over that fact alone, that it's kind of a unique thing to aviation that we do this kind of pressure cooker training. It's kind of cool.
It is. It's crazy because I only spent a year at an airline, and the indoctrination training / systems training for the airplane that you fly is about a month, and it's wherever the airline sends you. In my case, it was Salt Lake City, Utah. And all of the pilots stayed at one hotel. They paired us up, so there were 2 of us to a hotel room. It was like college all over again.
This sounds like college. Yeah, awesome.
And the funny thing is not once outside of the sim did I fly with any of these people ever again.
Wow.
And yet there's probably at least a half dozen of them that I still talk to this day, because that, like you said, pressure cooker moment, it was a month of intense training where we all thought the sky was falling. And we formed a study group together, and we've all kind of gone our separate ways, and yet we still chat amongst each other. It's
That's cool.
a very unique experience.
That's really cool.
I would be remiss if I didn't say, on the opposite side of the spectrum, don't get yourself too loose, right? Like when you start showing off, when you start proving that, like, oh, I know I can do this, I'm really good, the more you push to prove yourself in that other way of how good you know you are, that's when you can also start making mistakes as well. So let's not get ourselves so relaxed that we go the other way, because if that pendulum swings in either direction too far, you start making mistakes and things start to happen.
Yeah, you want it to be just like that fine line of like just the right amount of effort, just the right amount of ease, and constantly like adjusting. That's where like that self-knowledge for me really helps, can kind of tell like, well, I'm getting like a little too rigid, ease up, or getting a little too passive and need to kind of tune it up a little bit. It's like a guitar string. You don't want it too loose. Otherwise it just goes twang, or too tight and the thing breaks. But you gotta know where you're at and constantly adjust your internal pace to meet the moment appropriately. Love it.
Couldn't agree more. Now, as we start to kind of get to the end of this, I think it's really important to chat about what happens at the end of the day too, because a solid evening, in my opinion, leads to a solid morning.
Yeah,
So what you
totally.
do at night after your training is done is going to then lead into how well your training goes the next morning, depending on how your training daily cycle actually goes. So for me, I'll do my little rituals, and then I'll
Cool.
let you talk about some of the, just brief things that we've chatted about before of how to bring the edge off if you need to.
Cool.
So for me, I usually will have my sim during the day, and then late afternoon into maybe even early evening, depending on when the training gets out. That time's my own. So if I feel like I am lacking in something, I will make sure I put in a conscious effort to do whatever last minute little studying that I need to, little bit of tweaks, because at this point in the game, doing a 3-4 hour study session is going to do more harm than good. It's either there or
Counterproductive.
it's not.
Yeah.
Right. So stressing out about it in that moment only makes me tired before I have to actually then go into something. So small tweaks, maybe a brief run through some flashcards, some memory items, and then it's what am I going to do for the rest of the day? So even if I have fallen out of running in my personal life, I find that maybe going for a brief little run in the hotel kind of takes my brain off of things. I like to actually feel, funny enough, I like to feel a little bit of like leg fatigue going into training where I'm going to have to use my legs because, dead foot, dead rudder.
Yep.
So like you're hammering on that rudder. And if you've gone for a run the night before, for me, it's like, ooh, there's that extra bit of feeling. And what that does for me is it actually helps me remember that I need to use my foot. Because if you're not a little bit fatigued, then it's not difficult. So adding that extra layer of physical difficulty actually turns my brain on a little bit more. It's kind of weird how that works.
No, mind-body connection makes total sense. Remember, you have feet when you fly is something I frequently tell myself.
Right. I am also a sucker for Chipotle.
Oh, yeah. I knew we had to hit Chipotle this episode. I've been waiting for it. We got there.
Now, listeners, it's not pizza for once. It's Chipotle.
Chipotle.
My family hates Chipotle. And my coworkers, they want like actual dinners. They want to go to a restaurant. They want to sit down.
They're
so
not
when
having
in my life do I get
casual.
Chipotle?
This is your week.
This is my week. I look forward to Recurrent training because I have framed it to a point where this is when I can have as much Chipotle as I want.
He walks into Chipotle and the angels are singing, oh,
100%.
Here he comes. He busts those doors open like, yeah.
Out of my last Recurrent, I was there from Sunday to Saturday, and I had Chipotle 4 times.
Well done.
It was one of the best weeks ever.
Did you get one of their new meat cups? Don't they have these things now?
Why would I ruin Chipotle by having it in a cup? No.
I don't know why they have this. It's like the protein craze. They're like, look, we have meat in a cup, but you did not partake. Okay, I've been wondering if you did. Pass.
I get out of Recurrent training. I maybe go for a little bit of a run. I go to Chipotle, and then I will do something for me. And usually, because I am trying to turn my brain off at this point, usually it's a great time to bring a good book. Even if I'm not in my personal life reading a book that week between, say, 8 or 9 to 10:30, I try to make sure I get like that quote 8 hours of sleep or whatever.
Or whatever that is.
Whatever, I don't even know. It's a great time to kind of get some of that in. It lets me think about something else. It lets me sort of just disconnect from what's going on. And it also has the added benefit of putting me to sleep a little bit sooner than I otherwise normally do, because I am a night owl. So midnight, 12:30, that's my normal thing. But if I've got a 6 o'clock wake up for an 8 o'clock sim, can't do that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my routine. And not everybody's as rigid as I am. I have my little things that I like to do, but it works for me. And I've gotten to a point where like the rigidityness of that routine, I kind of look forward to once to twice a year, depending on how things go. And that helps me get over the stress of like, oh, I got to go do this again. It's like, I get Chipotle 4 times next week. This is going to be great.
It's awesome. It's Chipotle. It's to the point now, I haven't even known you that long. What, a year and a half? Maybe a little more than that? You're like, oh, I'm going to Recurrent training. I'm like, it's Chipotle time. Woo! woohoo. But
Mhm.
also, you've like eliminated a decision factor. Like at the end of a long day, I can imagine decision fatigue is a thing. Now, like, what am I having for dinner? Where am I going? I have to make all these decisions. You already know. And it's something you like and you look forward to. I love your routine. It may not be for everyone, but I think that's the key point is like, I think the best people that I've trained, particularly looking in music and yoga, who have like high stress things, they do like this. They're really good at assessing what they need. Like they'll get to the end of a day and they'll be like, okay, pause for a moment, and they do whatever shutdown ritual they need to do around the work for the day, which is exactly what you described. They kind of go like, okay, how did the day go? Is there anything else I need to do so that my brain feels satisfied that I can check it off the list and set it aside? And then they do that, but it has a tight little window around it. It's either timed or they have some ritual where it's like literally a shutdown ritual where they write things down and get their day organized, then they set it aside and they're like, okay, once the notebook is closed, I'm done. A lot of people don't do that though, and it kind of bleeds into the rest of their day. And even if they're doing the fun thing, their brain is still thinking that they should be working on it. So that idea of having a way that you are telling yourself, I'm putting this away intentionally is huge. I think it's awesome. The other thing that I notice really works for people is, again, assessing where they're at. Do they need to either release energy, or is their energy too high and they need to kind of come down? It sounds like for you, like the release of energy is the running. And I find that too a lot after flying. Even though it's so active, you're sitting a lot. All I want to do is go work out after flight training. I want to like move, like in all the planes of action that I can move. So I love going to the gym after flying as well, because it's like that release of the stored energy. And I won't go into the health benefits of it, but it's fantastic. But if you're paying attention, do I need to release energy like that? Awesome. Is it a high intensity release like a run? Or do I just need to go on a walk so that I'm moving and kind of getting things moving, but I'm not overstimulating my nervous system? Some people are the opposite, though. They are always so high wired that they find a need that they actually need to come down. And that's where a thing like a guided relaxation, some paced breathing practice, even just laying on a bed for 5 minutes with one hand on chest, one hand on belly, a little relaxing music playing and doing slow, deep breaths for 5 minutes. For a lot of people, that's like their click reset, and then they can go on with their night and feel awesome. But if they skip that, then they feel like they're constantly in that like overstim state. So I'd say the key is to stop, have a shutdown ritual, and then assess what you need. You too high, too low, and how can you move yourself towards balance? Because it's going to be different from everyone. But I always would recommend moving, breathing, and resting in some combination of that. With that assessment, I just have one little other thing I wanted to add. When I do an assessment for a day, I've been following this thing called the rule of thirds. I got to find out where I got this from. I think it's from some gym bro who came out with this with working out, because people get really hung up with working out and how it feels and how my workout was. And the rule of thirds is that a third of the time it's going to be awesome and feel really fabulous. A third of the time it's going to be neutral and you're just like, I did it. It was like brushing my teeth. I have no opinions. A third of the time it's going to be not so great. And he was like, whichever one of those is, you just assess it and you're like, okay, the key thing is I did it and it happened. Is like to eliminate the need for it to be a certain way and just go, oh, I was great today. All right, that's fine. Rule of thirds. And I've really started practicing that when I have a good day, like your first 2 days in the sim, John, when it's like, those were so good. I don't let myself get too caught up in that anymore. I say to myself, oh, that was really good. I flew that so great today. I go, this too shall pass. And that actually helps me then when I have a sucky day, I go, oh, this too shall pass, because I know that it's just going to keep on flowing. It keeps me from getting too caught up in like what happened and just letting it happen and then play the ball where it lies like they do in golf and just keep going. So those are my opinions for turning your brain off at the end of the day.
That's good advice. And the sort of final thoughts in all of this as we kind of put a nice little bow on top of this. And I wish I could take credit for what I'm about to say, but I didn't write it, but I think it's really good. It says, Recurrent is not a verdict on your worth as a pilot. And you have to look at it as perfection versus excellence. Perfection says, I cannot make any mistakes. Excellence says, I will manage whatever mistakes I make. So it goes in and talks about how excellence in Recurrent involve things like clear communication, calm problem solving, aircraft control, and arguably the most important, honest self-correction. If you make a mistake, that's what you're there for. Fix it and move on. You don't want a robotic performance. You don't want a flawless performance. You want something that you can learn from and be better tomorrow. So when you actually are in an airplane, when you have passengers, when you have family members on board, you have gone through what you need to go through to be safe for them and, of course, for yourself. Succeeding in Recurrent isn't about memorizing procedures. It's about training your brain, regulating your stress, and recovering well at the end of the day. Doesn't ask you to prove your worth as a pilot. It asks you to show up as the pilot you already are. And the more you can drop the need to prove yourself, the better you'll fly, the better you'll think, and the better you'll learn.
Mic drop. Boom. Yes.
So I think we should end there because I can't get any more profound than that. So.
That's so good. Oh, I think I'm going to have to listen to this episode on repeat myself as I move towards check ride here, because it's all good stuff that we get so good at doing, and then sometimes we can forget. And I know, like, I slide back on this stuff and then I hear it again. I go, oh, yeah. Like I think we said in one of the last episodes, like, the easy way is hard enough. The easy way is hard enough. So let's lighten up on all of this and enjoy it. At the end of the day, we all are flying because we love flying. That's why we're here. And plugging into that current is really great. And I think that's what brings the zone in, that ability, like you said, to be doing it and watching yourself doing it at the same time. What a cool thing it is we get to do. How awesome is that?
I hope this helps your next training event, whatever training event it might look like, whether you're flying a 172 all the way to a Gulfstream or an Airbus or a Boeing or whatever happens to be that you're behind the controls of. And Geeta, where can people find more information about us?
They can go to our website, calmcockpit.com. We're on Facebook, Calm Cockpit Podcast, also Instagram. But, most of all, we love getting your emails. We've gotten some emails from people and we always go, oh, did you see that one we got? And it gives us ideas and feedback of what is really resonating for you guys. So please, we'd love to hear, how are you handling your training? What are you learning? Is there anything that you would add to the list that we talked about today? And drop us an email, calmcockpit@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you there.
Just find us anywhere you want to find your podcast. Obviously, you
yeah.
found this episode, but when you're recommending it to others and they don't have, say, an iPhone, well, you can find us on Spotify, on Amazon Music, or anywhere else. And every platform, please give us 5 stars. It helps others find the podcast, and it just gets us out there a little bit further. So we appreciate any and all effort in doing so. Thank you for listening. And with that, fly smarter.
And stress less.
Boston Tower 1 departure is Airbus 321. Traffic holding crossing runway 33 left 3 lane.